Good day, everyone. We are your presenters, Alias Unarine, Jaquita Smith, and Natasha Lewis. Today, we will be presenting on Chapter 7, Interacting in Teams and Groups from the Exploring Leadership textbook. Let's start with our learning objectives. The learning objectives gained after reading this chapter is understand why groups are created and its function. Identify the stages of group development. Describe how group roles and group norms impact how teams and groups function. Group dynamics. Understand the role conflict plays in a group and gain strategies to address conflicts. And lastly, application of the relational leadership model. Next slide. So, understanding groups. In order to understand groups, we must first begin with defining what a group is. A group is considered to be three or more people interacting and communicating interpersonally over time in order to reach a goal. We experience many types of groups in life. Some of these are highly structured with clear rules and processes. Examples include a class or a student government meeting. Other groups are loosely structured and informal, like a discussion at a dining hall table. To understand group dynamics and leadership, we must first recognize the various types of groups we encounter in our daily lives. These groups vary in their level of structure, purpose, and duration. Let's break down these key dimensions. So, firstly, purpose of groups. Groups serve different purposes, from casual social gatherings to organized assignments. However, the main purpose of a group is to collaborate and participate in individual and collective work. For example, a class or a student government meeting has a clear purpose related to education or government. Understanding the purpose of a group helps determine its structure and processes, ensuring that members can effectively achieve their goals. Think about a sports team where the purpose is to win games, or a study group aiming to improve academic performance. Let's look in more detail to some of the examples. Casual social gathering could be a group of friends meeting for a movie night that has the purpose of socializing and enjoying each other's company. A task-oriented team can be a project team at work that has the purpose of completing a specific project or task within a given time frame. A student government meeting can have the purpose of to discuss and make decisions on issues relevant to the student body, such as event planning or policy changes. Let's look at how to differentiate between groups and teams.
Have you ever wondered if you're leading a team or a group? To lead effectively, it is important we recognize whether we are leading a team or a group. The difference is subtle but important. We don't coach a baseball group or lead a focus team. We coach a baseball team and lead a focus group. Let's understand the difference. In this short video, we will compare and contrast teams and groups by looking at the definitions and characteristics. A team is a unit of two or more people who interact regularly and coordinate their work to accomplish a shared goal or purpose. The three key components being that teams are made up of two or more individuals. The individuals in teams work together regularly and they share a goal. A group is comprised of three or more people who recognize themselves as a distinct unit or department, but who work independently of each other to achieve their organizational goals. Let's note that groups are made up of three or more individuals that work independently of one another toward their organization's goals. let's delve a little deeper and contrast the characteristics of teams and groups. Teams share or rotate leadership roles, whereas a group has a designated strong leader. Teams possess accountability mutually as a team and as individuals. Individuals and groups generally only feel accountable for their independent work within the group. This may be due to the fact that when performance goals are set, teams set their goals themselves, whereas performance goals for groups are often set by others. Teams typically have a very specific vision or purpose, whereas the purpose of a group tends to be that of the organization. Teams work beyond organizational boundaries, and groups work within them. Teams thrive in providing open-ended discussion, active problem-solving, and mutual feedback, whereas groups thrive with meetings and delegation. The next time you're leading 2 or more people, ask yourself, am I leading a group or a team? Remember these subtle differences that will make a big difference in your impact as a manager or leader. Have fun.
That was an insightful video. Let's continue.
Our world and our society are constantly changing. Products and services are becoming more and more complex and sophisticated. New technologies are becoming
What makes people join groups? Firstly, we have security. Secondly, we have self-esteem. Thirdly, power. Fourthly, status. Fifthly, affiliation, and sixthly, goal achievement. Next, let's look at group structure. Group structure is defined as the layout of a group. It is a combination of group rules, norms, conformity, workplace behavior, status, reference groups, social loafing, cohorts, group demography, and cohesiveness. Group structure refers to how members relate to each other and the presence of formal leadership roles. Some groups, like a pickup softball game, may be loosely structured with no designated leader, while others, such as board of directors, have a clear hierarchy of roles. Consider how leadership can emerge naturally in informal settings, like friends planning a trip together, versus a workplace team where a manager holds a formal leadership position. Let's look closely into some of the examples. A loosely structured group can be a group of neighbors organizing a neighborhood barbecue. It may not have a designated leader, and decisions are made collectively based on consensus. Hierarchical structure could be in a corporate setting with a board of directors and has a clear hierarchical role, with a chairman or president overseeing the board's operations. Lastly, we can look at emergent leadership. This can be in a classroom setting. A study group may not have a formal leader, but leadership roles emerge based on individual strength and expertise in different subjects. Lastly, we can look at time. Groups can exist for varying lengths of time, which impacts their dynamics and challenges. Short-term groups, like ad hoc committees, which is a temporary group of people who are brought together to perform a specific task or solve a problem, require quick establishment of rapport and goals, while long-term groups, such as a family or fraternity, must sustain member motivation and focus over time. Let's reflect on how the dynamics of a one-time meeting, to discuss a specific issue differ from those of a recurring class or a long-standing organization? Well, the dynamics of a one-time meeting to discuss a specific issue are characterized by their focused, time-limited nature, whereas recurring classes or long-standing organizations involve ongoing engagement, relationship building, and a broader focus on achieving organizational construction. Let's look closely into some of the examples. Short-term groups can be an ad hoc committee formed to plan a one-time event, such as a charity fundraiser, and has a specific time frame and disbands once the event is completed. A long-term group, however, can be a family that exists over a lifetime, with members sustaining relationships and dynamic over many years. A recurring group can be a weekly book club meeting that is a recurring group that meets regularly over an extended period, allowing members to develop deeper relationships and sustain engagement over time. Now, I would like to pass on to my group member, Jaquita Smith, who will focus on the aspect of group development in more depth.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Jaquita Smith, and as my member just mentioned, I'll be touching on group development. Firstly, we will look at Tuckman's group development. What was observed is how groups evolve. One of the findings was the real value is in recognizing where a team is in the developmental stage. So that's where the value lies when it looks at a group in whole. They develop the initial development stages. In a real world situation, teams frequently comes together and evolve, potentially progressing through various Tuckman stages. Each time they undergo changes. So I'm going to play a very short video for you all, just touching basically on the stages that Tuckman's presented.
In 1965, piscologist Bruce Tuckman said that teams go through 5 stages of development: forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. Forming is a short-lived phase. The team gets acquainted and learns roles and responsibilities. Formalities are preserved. Members are treated like strangers. Storming can be a challenging period. The team can experience disagreements, power struggles, and conflict offers. They resist control by their leader. Members start to communicate their feelings and still see themselves as individuals. Norming is having everyone come to an agreement. People feel part of put together successfully if they accept others' point of view. Everyone is contributing and working as a cohesive unit. Performing is the stage where a team works in an open and trusted atmosphere. A space where flexibility is key. Confidence grows. And when a group operates as a high-performance team both individually and as team goals are achieved. The last step is adjourning, which is the completion of the role or project. Many teams will reach this stage. For example, a team disbanding when a project ends or a permanent team may be disbanded through organizational restructuring. Team members who like routine or have developed a close relationship with colleagues may find this stage difficult, particularly if their future now looks uncertain. Thanks for watching. We hope this short clip has helped. For
Yes, I'm going to elaborate a
information,
little
please
bit
visit
more on the themes that we just discussed. So firstly, forming is a group's initial stage of coming together, which includes tasks such as recruitment and affiliation. From this stage to the next stage, each member must relinquish their comfort zone of non-threatening topics and risk the possibility of conflict. So let's look at some forming behaviors that we may see exhibiting in groups, which will be tentative joining. So the uncertainty of joining the group. Avoids controversy. So usually if you join a group or a team, if the majority of members goes with one particular viewpoint, and to avoid controversy, you may not want to input. There's also needs for safety and approval within the behaviors of foremen, and cliques may form. So if you have one viewpoint and you relate to another member, you may create subgroups because of that point. Moving on to forming feelings and thought. So one of the thoughts in joining a new group will be what is expected of me. Persons may feel fearful or anxious working with others, and many feels excited and optimistic and full of anticipation. So we were looking at forming and what the team needs. For example, the team needs to establish specific objectives and tasks, identify roles and responsibility among team members, and also it's important at this stage, in the beginning stage, to set team members' expectations. In terms of leadership, what we'll be looking at will be a project guide and instructions, like a list of things that needs to be completed for this particular task. Leadership will provide structure and it will be task that directed. Also, it's important to allow members to get acquainted, especially if you are not familiar with that particular group of persons. It's suggested that they get acquainted. Also, in terms of leadership, creates an atmosphere of confidence and optimism, and be actively involved. So we're going to move on to the next stage, which is storming. During this stage, the group begins to get organized and varying viewpoints start to become evident. As we looked at the video previously, it would have touched on this. If groups is not clear about its purpose and goals, the group cannot agree on a shared goal, then at this stage, it may collapse. What is recommended is that they need to revisit some of the processing of the forming stage and resolve issues. In this stage, individuals engage in self-assertion to get their needs recognized and addressed. So we'll be looking at some storming behaviors as well. So some of the behaviors we can look at will be arguing among members, vying for leadership. Difference in points of view and personal styles are evident. Lack of role clarity, team organizing itself, power struggles and clashes. Lack of consensus seeking behaviors, lack of progress, and it may have established unrealistic goals. And there will be some concerns of excessive work. And let me touch on some of the feelings and thought that may exhibit during this particular stage of storming. It will be feelings of defensiveness, confusion, loss, not interested, resistance to tasks. There may be some fluctuations in attitude about the team itself, unsure if they agree with the proposed mission, questions of wisdom of their team members. You may see increase in tension, unsure about personal influences and freedom within the team, and feelings of we are not getting anywhere. In terms of the team aspects of storming, you will see personal differences. What is recommended is clarifying and understanding the team's purpose by reestablishing rules and ground rules. It will eliminate some of the confusion. It's very important to engage in effective listening. Giving and receiving feedback is very crucial as well. And in terms of its leadership, of course, with the projected guide, it suggests that the consensus among team members could reach to conflict resolution methods. It also offers support and recognition, actively involve team members to begin consulting one another. So in the event of feeling isolated, by encouraging members to consult, they will understand if, okay, I'm on the correct page, and then we could move on to have this particular task done. So we're going to be moving on to the next stage, which is norming. Once the group resolves key differences, it establishes patterns of how it gets work done. The group set up formal or informal procedures for which things come to a whole, which reports are needed, who is involved in what, and how people interact. So we're going to move on to some behaviors. So this is where the process and procedures and things that the members will agree upon happens. A building of more comfortable relationship, more task focus, effective conflict resolution skills should be exhibited, sincere attempts to make consensual decisions, balance, influence, share problem solving, also develop, set and achieve tasks by giving it its milestones. In terms of feelings and thought, the team will start to feel a sense of belonging, a confidence. And team members they will now feel the ability to express criticism constructively. They will accept all members within the team, and a general sense of trust will start to form, assuring that everything is going to work out okay. And freedom, of course, to express and contribute within the group as a whole. In terms of the team aspect, this is where the development of decision making happens. They will be prepared to offer ideas and suggestions. Problem solving skills are shared. So if one particular member encountered a problem before and another member encountered it, this is where the sharing will involve, so that they will be able to resolve this particular conflict timely, so that they will be able to complete the task timely. Utilizing all resources to support the team efforts, and also team members take responsibility and share leadership skills. In terms of leadership, it's shared. It's important to give feedback and support, allows for less structure, promotes team interaction, for contribution for all team members. Collaboration becomes clearer, encouraging others in making decisions, and also continue to build strong relationship. Moving on to the other stage of it, document stage will be performing. The performance stage is built on strong foundation on the previous three stages. The group now cycles into a mature stage of equilibrium. Time-limited groups may need a quick time-limited group may need to quickly get to this particular stage. So if you know this particular group was formed for a short time, it is important that they reach the performance stage so that they will be able to complete that task at hand. They need to effectively work through the previous stages and not skip right to performing without the necessary foundation, because each stage is important so that they can get that task done. So in terms of behaviors, it will be a fully functioning team. Rules will be clearer. Teams develop independence because they are now even clearer on the objective at hand. The particular team will be able to organize itself, and there will be a better understanding of each other's strengths and weaknesses and insights into the group processes. In terms of thoughts, because at this stage, you would have formed a particular relationship with the member. They will be showing empathy for one another. They will have a high commitment. They begins to understand with collaborative work ethics. Tight bonds emerge. Of course, there is fun and excitement, lots of personal development and creativity, a general sense of satisfaction, and continual discovery of how to sustain feelings of momentum and enthusiasm. In terms of the team itself, it will maintain team flexibility, measures knowledge and performance, and provides information. Leadership will be, of course, shared. Leadership will be practiced, observing, inquiring, fulfilling the team's need, collaborative efforts among team's members. Project guides provide direction. Team members offer positive reinforcement and support, share new information. And lastly, adjourning. The adjourning stage should indicate a celebration and recognition of the group's accomplishments, as well as a reflection on the lessons learned about what was evident and what was ineffective. So in terms of behaviors, there will be signs of visual sadness because this is a end of this particular group. It may not need to go on any further. Momentum may slow down because the task is near to completion, and there will be a burst of extreme energy, usually followed by a lack of energy after the task is completed. In terms of feelings and thoughts, sadness, as I mentioned before, there will be humor because at this time, you will be able to, you get to know each other personality, and happiness. And of course, because you're coming to the end of it, you will feel a sense of relief. In terms of teams, it evaluates efforts, ties up any loose ends that needs to close off this particular task, and recognize and reward the team's efforts. In terms of its leadership, it will look back on the projected guide in terms of how it helped teams develop their different options, continue to be a good listener, and reflecting and carrying forth collaborative learning to the next opportunity. So at this point, this will be the end of my side. We're going to be moving on to our next group member. Thank you.
Thank you, Chiquita. At this stage, we have discussed the understanding groups. We've discussed group development, and now we're about to discuss group dynamics. Next slide, please. Group dynamics defined. The term group dynamics refers to the way in which people in a group interact with one another. Group dynamics include processes to show the hows, how the group makes decisions, how the group handles conflict, and how the group meets its leadership needs. Our first discussion we're going to look at is group roles. Roles. Group depends on two kinds of roles, which are equally important to each other. These are group building roles. This includes the action that focus on the group as people, namely relationships among the members. It focuses on the process of the group. Group building roles cater to the process of groups. They are also referred to as maintenance roles. And the other role that we're going to discuss is task roles. Task roles focus on accomplishing the purpose of the group, inclusive of information sharing, opinions, and decision-making strategies. Task roles focus on the content within the group discussions. Next slide. We're going to look at a table showing you some of the common task roles that are exhibited in some groups, and these are initiator, the person who suggests new goals or ideas, and information giver, helps to clarify issues, usually offers facts or data that the group needs before proceeding. Information seeker, the person who asks others for facts within the group. The evaluator tests or analyzes suggestions to determine strengths and weaknesses. And clarifier helps to elaborate or explain ideas in new words to add meaning. Elaborator generally promotes greater understanding to the discussion, and the recorder performs a group memory function by taking notes and recording important decisions. Next slide, we look at the group building roles and some of the common roles that is part of this component. We have the encourager. The encourager welcomes all individuals and diverse ideas. The harmonizer, the mediator, harmonizes conflict and seeking to straighten out opposing points of views in a clear way. And then we have the gatekeeper, inviting those who have not yet spoken, who have been trying to say something, into the conversation. And then we have the follower. We've heard about the follower from our previous discussions, but that person is an active listener who willingly supports the group's actions and decisions. And why do we need group roles? Actually, it's really to encourage individual accountability. Next slide. Group norms. Group norms is the attitude, opinion, feeling, or action shared by two or more people that guides their behavior. Group norms is the informal rules and expectation the group establishes to regulate members' behaviors. Generally, group norms are developed through 1. Explicit statements. These are clearly seen by all participants, except for they may have the manuals or the bylaws of the group. 2. Critical events in the group history, for example, celebrating milestones like anniversaries, accomplishments of the groups. Primacy, the first set of behavior patterns that emerges set the expectations for the group in the future. Like, for instance, the first group meeting you may have, sit at that particular seat, and from there on, you continue sitting there. That becomes that part of your norm. Or switching off your cell phones at the beginning of a discussion. And then, of course, we have, fourthly, beliefs, values, members bring to the team and team experiences. These are just the cultural practices of the group are exhibited. So let's continue on to now creative conflict. When you hear conflict, what comes to mind? Conflict sounds like a bad word for most people, but what exactly we term conflict? Conflict is the result of opposing thoughts, actions, or ideas disrupting the status quo of the group. The storming stage, as Chiquita just mentioned, group development, can paralyze a group's progress. Unresolved conflict at any stage can create a group climate that is tense and hostile, but it can also be an effective method for improving the group's outcomes. And we're going to discuss that some further. When values, opinions, and/or beliefs do not align, we have conflict being created. Next slide. All right, here we're going to look at a very short video that is going to discuss understanding conflict.
In this video, we'll define conflict and identify what conflict is. We'll discuss the different types of conflict, then identify the different sources of conflict. Lastly, we'll talk about takeaways from this video. In my opinion, conflict occurs when values, opinions, and/or beliefs are not agreed upon by one or more parties. It feels like the stronger the opposing beliefs, the more intense the conflict. Conflict can occur between one person and another. It can occur between groups or teams, or it can occur between a person and a group. Conflict can also occur when two different parties think differently, meaning everyone wants to achieve the same end result, but one person may work best with a task list and another person sees the vision but can't articulate the specifics on the means to the end. The task list person may be conflicted with the project because of the manner in which to proceed, thus potentially causing interpersonal conflict. Conflict can either be people or issue-based. When it's based on people, it may also be called interpersonal or affective conflict. When it's based on an issue, it may be called cognitive conflict. To diagnose the type of conflict, look at whether the focus is a difference of opinion or if it's related to a problem. If it's a difference of opinion, it's people-based. If it's problem-related, it's issue-based or cognitive. The impact that conflict has on organizations is tremendous, both in positive and negative manners. For example, organizations with interpersonal conflict are not as likely to be effective, probably because they're spending their time trying to resolve non-value added issues. However, organizations who establish an environment where associates are encouraged to challenge ideas in a professional manner have demonstrated improved performance. Team conflict may fall into either category. managers' most important contribution to conflict resolution is communication. For example, conflict could exist on a team because one team member feels having meetings with an agenda will keep everyone focused and on track, but the team leader doesn't want to have a formal agenda for every meeting. Effective conflict occurs when disagreements become personal rather than professional. An example of this may be not attending a meeting because you don't like the person who's actually facilitating it. In general, the longer the time the parties are in conflict, the more intense the conflict becomes. Ideally, managers should look to resolve conflict as they become aware that it exists. The first step is to identify the source of the conflict. According to Witten and Cameron, there are 4 sources of conflict: personal differences, informational deficiencies, role incompatibility, and environmentally induced stress. Personal differences are a result of the different backgrounds and experiences clashing. These are often highly emotional and can be difficult to resolve. The best way to resolve is to look at the situation from the other person's perspective and make an honest attempt to understand it. In the event that this isn't successful, it's best for both parties to professionally and respectfully agree to disagree and move on. Informational deficiencies are a result of not receiving a message or misinterpreting a message. These are often fact-based and easy to resolve because emotions are not involved. Assuming there is no harmful intent, it is best to break down the facts, walk through them with all parties involved, and identify where the miscommunication occurred. When trying to create a win-win environment, there are usually no hard feelings left on the table. Role incompatibility usually occurs when employee tasks are highly interdependent. Every department has a different role within the organization with different goals. An example would be if someone in sales promises new functionality on your product on the next generation, but the quality team knows that it has to go through a significant and costly process to ensure it maintains the proper government regulations. This would probably need to be escalated to director level to be resolved if it couldn't be resolved within the sales and quality teams. The last major source of conflict is working in an environment with significant stress. An example would be when the leadership team challenges operations to reduce expenses by, let's say, $1 million. Those who know the intricacies of their department budget know that this is about half of their total expense budget, and the result is often immediate fear of layoffs. Uncertainty is another environmental fear that causes stress. Is our organization relevant? What's the value of my position? All of these factors cause stress within your natural working environment. One of the blessings in life is that we're all unique. As a natural consequence, there will be disagreements throughout your life. The best thing you can do is to manage your own reactions. Some disagreements you can laugh off, and some you'll remember for decades. You only get one life to live, so think about what's worth your time and energy. Do your best to understand the other person's perspective, make an effort to create win-win situations, and know that it's okay to disagree and still be friends or colleagues.
Thank you, Chiquita. So from the short video, we've realized that there are types of conflict. Just to recap, we have the role conflict, different expectations of roles.
Fear of losing their value, fear of feeling not smart enough to think of the solution first. However, there's tremendous value in seeking
personality conflict, person to person, between groups, between person and group. And then we have conflict in ideas, disagreements over ideas, or we have controversy. Conflict outcomes. Next slide. When conflict is confronted, it is best to employ negotiation or mediation strategies, not power struggles. Conflict resolution outcomes are as follows. Win-win. Both sides are heard and are satisfied with the resolution of their differences. Win-lose. One side uses power strategies to win by out-talking or rushing to vote, but in the process, a loser is created. And lastly, we have lose-lose. Both sides use power strategies and get rigid and no effective resolution is achieved, even in compromise. We're now going to look at, we're at the point where we're going to look at the application of the relational model. Now, the relational model identifies that conflict is natural and is inevitable. The relational model of leadership encourages processes to handle conflict that will promote inclusivity and empowerment. There are 5 key aspects in the relational model of leadership. 1, purpose, working for the common goal. 2, inclusive, takes into consideration different identities to create an equitable group. 3, empowerment, getting others involved to remove barriers. 4, ethical, the standards of the group can be withheld. And 5 is process-oriented. The model encourages the group to establish ground rules for open and honest discussions on potential conflicts or issues. Now, the reason why we're looking at this is that in the chapter, the relational model of leadership is the key component used in identifying the groups and the group dynamics and how it's resolved conflict. There's a short video that concerns with the relational model of leadership as it pertains to conflict.
Thanks for joining us today and taking some time to learn about a different way you could lead. Today, we're going to explore the relational leadership model. By the end of this video, you should be able to name all 5 parts of the relational leadership model, describe 3 of the 5 parts of the model, and describe 3 ways you can implement the relational leadership model in your leadership work. First, let's explore a little more about why relational leadership is relevant and important. In the larger picture of American and European concepts of leadership, relational leadership is in the newer wave of styles and models that are more inclusive, follower-focused, and collaborative. It is also moving away from the traditional power structures of Eurocentric models of leadership. Past models include the great man and trait theories, the trends of which we can still see in ways we often consider leadership today, that a person has specific characteristics or traits that make them a leader, or someone is born a great leader. This model includes 5 parts, 4 of which are encompassed by a focus on process. How a leader and group completes a task is just as important as the task itself. This is a very important shift in thinking about leadership from what we've usually been accustomed to. In addition to the process, this model also posits that good leadership is also ethical, inclusive, purposeful, and empowering. We'll define each of these parts and the ways you can change your leadership and ways your group can change their work to be more relational. Process-oriented leadership refers to the overarching way a group goes about being a group, remaining a group, and accomplishing the group's purpose. Personally, you can work to build patience in yourself and trust in others so that you feel capable to share decision-making with the entire group. It's important to understand that the process may take longer this way, but it will also produce a more robust, lasting, and effective result. This is why it's important to build some patience in yourself and trust in others. As an organization, consider different ways to make decisions besides just voting. Research other methods, including using our group decision-making discussion guide, and think about the scope of who to include in different types of decisions. For example, all of an executive group, all members, some members, etc. The relational leadership model also defines that good leadership is inclusive of people and diverse points of view. As an individual, you can continue to grow your understanding of your own and others' identities, practice valuing differences in people, and learn how to manage dialogue when people have differing viewpoints. At the organizational level, help your team see your group and others as part of an interconnected web. How are your missions and work connected? How do the actions of one group impact or influence the other? The more we understand how all of our work is connected, the more inclusive we can be of other groups in that process. Relational leadership is also empowering of others who are involved. Work to understand the impact of power structures and how power operates in organizations. And then look for ways to give up some of that power in your group to non-positional members. Additionally, build relationships between members of your group that help develop a culture where power, information, and decision-making are shared. This will mean that all members can feel empowered because they know what's happening. They feel like they have a piece of the decision-making capabilities, and that power is really shared across the structure. Ethical leadership is driven by values and standards of leadership, which is considered good or moral in nature. To work towards ethical leadership, you must first understand and define your own values and create regular cues to help you tune into and pay attention to those values in your everyday life and leadership. As a group, help them define their own values, then develop a way your group will differentiate ethical decisions from other kinds of decisions they have to make, and then a method for how they will use those values to guide those decisions. Purposeful leadership is the commitment to a goal and the ability to find a common ground with others to establish a common purpose or vision. Spend time in self-reflection individually to better understand your personal motivations, commitments, and goals. You can do this through journaling, daily reflections, and regular questioning of yourself and meditation. As a team, spend time establishing your group vision, mission, and goals. Then check in regularly on those things to make sure that they are guiding your actions. Everything you do should be working towards those goals and achieving them. Some short key takeaways about relational leadership. First, and perhaps most important, pay attention to how you do things, not just what you accomplish. This matters much more than you think. Reframe your decisions as ethical decisions to better help you examine the ethical implications of your options and confront and address ethical challenges your group sees. Stretch yourselves to understand how your group is connected to others and to understand the interconnected web of our community. Always lead from your group mission and vision and use these to drive your goal setting and work. And continue to see patterns and structures of power and imagine ways to share this even more with others in the group and community. There are many more resources on our website and throughout the university community to help you develop and practice leadership in each of these areas. Consider just a few areas in which you want to work and reach out to some of the resources listed to learn more.
Okay, so in continuing what we've seen in the video, you see in applying the components or aspects of the relational model can assist the leader in combating conflicts. We now move on to group decision making. In the traditional views, leadership often assume that group has formal leader with the authority and responsibility to make final decisions. A positional leader has to make decisions on behalf of the group because of one, no time to keep a group meeting or consult with group members. The leader may be engaged in another meeting and need to speak on behalf of the group, or the leader may determine that the decision is not a major one and is not just worth the group's time and effort. Whenever an individual decision arises, the positional leader will find the relational leadership model useful in guiding decision-making process. Next slide. Applying the relational leadership model, the positional leader should ask these questions. Does this decision support our vision and mission? Purposeful. What opinions do my group members have about this issue? The inclusive part of the relationship model. Will this decision heighten our involvement or limit involvement? Empowering. Is this the right thing to do? Is it principle, ethical? And should I slow down making this decision so that others can get involved? The process-oriented aspect of it. Now we move on to group decision-making, participative or democratic leadership. As the name implies, participative leadership is often thought to involve the use of decision procedures intended to allow other people some influence over the leader's decision. The desired outcome is that a better decision is made and receives greater acceptance when those involved are part of the decision-making process. And some benefits of this leadership type are: 1, group members may be empowered to make decisions. 2, learn more effective leadership skills. And 3, sustain a higher commitment to the process. And then we're going to look at some 4 possible decision-making procedures as outlined by Yilk in 1989. They are as follows: varieties of group decision procedures. Autocratic leader, group decision, Autocratic decision, the manager makes a decision alone without asking for the opinions or suggestions of other people, and these people have no direct influence on the decision. There is no participation. Then you have consultation. Consultation, manager asks other people for their opinions and ideas and then makes a decision alone after seriously considering their suggestions and concerns. Then we have joint decision. The manager meets with others to discuss the decision problem and make a decision together. The manager has no more influence over the final decision than any other any other participant. And then we have the delegation. The manager gives an individual or group the authority and responsibility for making a decision. The manager usually specifies limits within which the final choice must fall, and prior approval may or may not be required before the decision can be made. That part of our group decision-making aspect of the chapter, we learn about consensus. The relational leadership model would promote consensus models where possible. So what exactly is consensus? According to Rayner, he best describes consensus as does not mean that everyone on the team thinks the best possible decision has been reached. It does mean that no one is professionally violated by the decision and that all team members will support its implementation. And in a broad term, consensus is general agreement amongst a group of people. We are all on the same page. You have heard that before. And then we're going to look at some consensus guidelines. Consensus is not easily achieved, and so Rayner also proposes some critical guidelines for reaching consensus within a team. 1, clearly define the issue facing the team. 2, focus on similarities between positions. 3, ensure that there is adequate time for discussion. And 4, avoid conflict-reducing tendencies, example like voting. Consensus requires that the group be willing to use strategies like active listening, compromising, and working in a collaborative manner. Encouraging divergent points of view, listening for understanding, and allowing people to disagree with each other with civility are important hallmarks of consensus building processes. So let's now look at group decision-makings, its advantages and disadvantages. Some advantages are make more accurate decisions, provides more complete information, offers a great diversity of experiences and perspectives, generates more alternatives, increases acceptance of a solution, and increases the legitimacy of a decision. On the other hand, some disadvantages of group decision making are it's more time consuming and less efficient. Minority domination can influence decision process. It can lead to increased pressures to conform to the group's mindset, better known as groupthink, or ambiguous responsibility for the outcomes of decisions. As part of our discussion as well, we're looking at teamwork. Just as collections of people do not automatically constitute groups, all groups are not teams. Cotter and Cohen observed that powerful groups has two characteristics. It is made up of the right people and it demonstrates teamwork. Hughes, Sinnett, and Curfey also distinguishes between groups and teams, noting that although both have the characteristics of mutual interaction and reciprocal influence, teams have a stronger sense of identity and common goals or tasks. In addition, task independence is higher within a team than a group, and team members usually have more distinctive roles than group members. Earlier on in our presentation, we looked at a video that looked at teams versus groups, but we'll just touch on some of the key points and to bring a broader perspective into it. Teams and groups. Work groups compared to teams. Individual accountability, that's the work group I'm discussing, as opposed to a team, individual and mutual accountability. Work groups focus on individual goals. A team frequency come together for discussion, decision-making, problem solving, and planning. A work group comes together to share information and perspective, while a team focus on team goals. Work group produce individual work products, while a team produce collective work products. Work group define individual roles, responsibilities, and tasks, and the team have defined individual roles, responsibilities, and tasks to help team to do its work, often share and rotate them. And the work group concerns with one's own outcome and challenges, while the group concerns with outcomes of everyone and challenges the team faces. And lastly, the purpose, goals, approach to work shaped by the manager in the work group whereas the team purpose, goals, approach to work shaped by the team leader with team members. Just move on to the next aspect of the chapter, which deals with team learning. Individual learning in the conventional sense of college students, as we are here sitting together, often include reading, experiments, study groups, group projects, etc. However, whenever a team has a shared responsibility, it has to find a way to learn together, not separately. Team learning takes place in dialogue with each other and through reflection on shared experiences. So what is this dialogue? Dialogue is far more than the mere words used to share meanings. It includes our tone of voice, our laughter, our pause, difficulty in finding the right words to say at the time, and amount of discussion needed to come to some meaning. When a team is in dialogue, participants are aware of the process of their communication as well as the content. So let's look at now the leadership implications within the group dynamics. In a productive work community, leaders are not commanders and controllers, bosses and big shots. However, leaders in teamwork settings are, namely, facilitators of team learning, servers and supporters, partners and providers. Participants and leaders must all share the responsibility of processing any shared group experience to make it a conscious process as a team. Successes need to be understood as well as the failures. So let's look at now team leadership. Team performance and team development are two critical functions of leadership. And what are team performance? Team performance is accomplishing the group's goals, making decisions and plans, achieving results, and solving problems. While team development includes establishing effective relationships, creating an environment in which individuals feel valued and facilitate cohesion within the team. Again, we look at the relational leadership model, which reiterates the importance of both of these functions, with its emphasis on process-oriented, which is team development, and purpose, which is team performance. We're now going to look at team leadership and its internal and external demands. Research conducted on teams shows that productivity, innovation, creativity, decision-making, equality, problem-solving, and use of resources are all increased or enhanced as a result of people working in team structures. It is while balancing the teams, leaders often have to shift between the following. 1, monitoring the team's progress and relationship. Taking action if the team is stuck and unable to move forward. And 3, paying attention to internal and external group issues if the team cannot resolve it on its own. So let's look at now characteristics. Next slide. Characteristics of team leadership. Research conducted by Dr. Susan Hill, a guru in team leadership, has found that the characteristics of team leadership entails clear evaluating goals, believe that the goal is worthwhile and clear enough, results-driven structure, group's purpose needs to drive the structure of the team, competent team members, group members possess that technical knowledge and interpersonal skills, unified commitment, the group has a sense of identity and level of team spirit. Collaborative climate, all individuals contribute collectively to the success of the team's effort. And standards of excellence established and clearly understood by the team's members. Principled leadership, leader establishes priorities and help the team stay focused on the goals. And of course, there's external support where the resources, the money, equipment, whatever the team needs to accomplish its goals and is given recognition for its successes. We're going to look now at effective teamwork and the 4 components that makes this up. It is important to establish a team at the beginning before initiating the work to be accomplished. To achieve this, the 4 design components of effective teamwork are as follows. The task structure. The team understands its task and finds meaning in it. The team is given autonomy to accomplish the task. 2, group boundaries. The size of the team is just right. It's not too big, it's not too small. Everybody fits in it. There's diversity exists within the team, and the team has sufficient knowledge, information, and interpersonal skills to accomplish the goals harmoniously. And then we talk about the norms. Earlier we discussed that. The team has a set of norms to guide the behaviors of the team members. And lastly, authority. There's a flexible rather than rigid use of authority by the leader and team members that allows for open debate and instills a sense of empowerment and trust, as well as degree of command when compliance by group members is warranted. And finally, we want to look at, summarize the chapter. Groups are the building blocks of communities of practice. We function in many different kinds of groups that are that are different stages of development. This chapter presented group development models and principles of group dynamics, including aspects of decision-making, conflict resolution, and team learning that inform group practices. It is important to know the differences between groups and teams, which we discussed, and the intentional process of developing working groups into effective teams. I would like to leave you now with a quote by Lisa Cash Hansen that says, "Leadership is the ability to guide others without force into a direction or decision that leaves them still feeling empowered and accomplished." I wish to give you thank you for accommodating us tonight, and I trust it was meaningful to everyone. Thank you.